Welcome back to Halo Custom Concepts, the thing nobody's gonna watch, especially the devs, so feel free to make this into a mod because this isn't gonna happen otherwise. This episode is gonna be about all things melee weapon related in Halo. I will explain how the melee weapons can be made way more interesting and fun, and I'll propose a new melee weapon at the end. In the first-person Fallout games, you can block enemy melee attacks with a single press of the block button, which is the same as the aiming button for guns. You know where this is going. I wondered why other FPS games with melee don't also have blocking or parrying, whichever term you prefer. What if you could parry with an energy sword? In Halo Infinite, you have the zoom option, sort of like the classic games, except instead of binoculars, you just zoom in with the gun and you can still shoot while zoomed. For certain guns, you gain access to an alternate mode like the heat wave shot changing shape, and the Hydra can switch between free fire and lock-on. Melee weapons such as the sword and gravity hammer have no option to zoom in, and have no alternate mode, so it just does nothing. Instead, you could use this input to give melee weapons a new ability, blocking. Before energy swords had the ability to parry, but the way it works is strange. When two sword users are lunging at each other at around the same time, it automatically deflects and you're both knocked back. It's sort of like headbutting. Both are damaged and nothing gets done and you're sort of concussed. The automatic instinct is to spam melee and repeatedly headbutt until either someone slips up or another person interferes. This new mechanic wouldn't change multiplayer that much, even in Castle Wars, where it's swords and hammers only, especially if both forms of parrying were implemented. Where the parrying would really shine is in the campaign and firefight. When fighting energy sword elites, there's no headbutt parry system. One person shanks the other, and it's a traditional British alleyway affair. The most fun that a sword fight will be is when you manage to dodge their attack by moving your whole ass body out of the way. This only really happens when they lunge from far away in Infinite. I made a banished gladiator arena to demonstrate PvE melee mechanics and I added modifiers to make it more fun. When the modifiers are disabled, it's really hard and not very fun. With the parrying mechanic, you could go head to head with sword elites and have sick fights with friggin' laser swords. There is no timeline in which this is not fucking awesome. I did another mock-up except in Halo Reach Firefight, again with modifiers to make it more fun. I have armor lock and I'm deploying it intentionally in quick bursts so I can block an enemy's attack, and so I can pretend that I didn't just turn into a rock for a second. It's surprisingly fun having these sorts of stilted sword fights in a Halo game. It still feels like Halo, but it's a totally different kind of encounter and fight. This could be really fun if the game was actually built around it. Imagine a mission playing as the Arbiter and the Swords of Sanghelios, and fighting against the Silent Shadow. And the best part is, the parrying mechanic can be excluded from a level by simply not giving players the energy sword. Additionally, you could make a variant of Elite that has arm-mounted swords so that you can't pick it up after they're dead, like in Combat Evolved. And this concludes the energy sword ideas. On to the other melee weapon. For the gravity hammer, I have a rework in mind that can make it more fun to use than ever before. In the previous games, it all works the same way. Fast swing, things die. There was hardly an instance in which the sword would actually be a better option than the hammer. In Infinite, they made a change that I prefer but has its drawbacks. The swings are now much slower, but the attack is more devastating. It's now a trade-off between speed and area of effect. A sword is better for one guy with strong shields, a hammer is better for a horde of less strong guys. The hammer is still the better pick most of the time, but they've been further differentiated. However, the physics impulse effect has been disabled for the person using it, so you can't do cool jumps with it anymore.
Not good!
Bring that shit back. My idea for the gravity hammer is to combine the old with the new in a way that allows both to exist at the same time and provide more depth to the weapon. Halo has had a few weapons that allow you to hold down the trigger to unleash a more powerful secondary attack, which is more cool and awesome. You can probably see where I'm going with this. Tapping the trigger does a classic attack which does less damage and with a small radius, but is quicker. Holding down the trigger charges up the hammer, and the swing time is slower like an Infinite. The charged attack is the same as Infinite's grav hammer, but this time brings back the emphasis on physics effect on the player because it's cool. Now I know what you're thinking. How does the gravity hammer suddenly become harder to swing? It's not getting any heavier. I think the best way to explain this would be that the hammer is actively generating a gravitic space magic bullshit impulse effect as you charged up, pushing back against your arm, making it harder to swing. For balancing, I would make the primary attack not be a one-shot against players at full health. I would make it almost a one-shot, letting you finish them with a regular melee attack or something else. If the primary attack was a one-shot, people wouldn't use the charge attack and it would just feel like you're fighting against someone with an OG hammer. As a variant, it would be cool if you had a gravity hammer like Tartarus. His had a special device called the Super Sucker 9000 trademark that he used to grab things. It would be interesting if the zoom button would let you switch into suck mode to grab players and enemies and objects and stuff. This would be really overpowered though, so a regular gravity hammer shouldn't be able to do this. While it would be super powerful, there are a few niche instances in which the suction ability would have drawbacks. Such as if you accidentally suck in a grenade or a fusion coil or a rocket. That would really suck. As for parrying, the mechanic wouldn't really affect the gravity hammer, especially when fighting against another hammer user. No one's getting close to you. It would only come in handy when fighting a person with a sword who is able to lunge at you. You could have a parry generate a shield in front of you, absorbing the damage, but that would just be way too OP considering that this thing is already a gravity hammer. You'd be able to parry anything. If that's the case, a handheld shield should probably be its own thing. Wait a minute. New equipment item, a shield. We did have a shield in Halo 4 as an armor ability. It was executed in a way that was kind of shitty. The enemies in the campaign are not designed with this in mind. The Promethean's melee attack is super hard to react to, and even if you do block an attack, the guy doesn't react to it at all. When you're using it to block gunfire, you can do that just fine. When you put it down, you have to go through the whole weapon swap animation again, which means you just get shot at again. Could you use it to get to cover? Yeah, but slowly. You might as well just sprint to cover or shoot at them while on the move. The hard light shield has such niche use cases that it seems like the game just wasn't built with it in mind. The shield was meant for slowly walking towards something that was shooting at you. Your walking speed was slowed and even rotating was slowed. My rework proposes a shield meant for quickly parrying attacks and protecting you from oncoming fire in a way that doesn't slow the game down to a screeching halt for you or the person you're fighting against. I think a destructible shield will be far easier to balance in a way that is fun over an indestructible shield that has infinite uses. For starters, I'm assuming the game is using Halo Infinite's equipment system because that's most likely to be carried over to the next new Halo game, and also I like it. With the shield, you can still hold it down like the Halo 4 one. You are still in first person and you have normal mobility. You bring it up like the repulsor, except you keep it held up like that. The deploy time is quick enough to parry a melee or some other high damage attack at close range. The balancing is that the shield has finite uses and its own battery. The equipment has charges like the Infinite equipment, except each charge corresponds to its own battery or health like a Jackal shield. If the shield takes damage, it depletes the bar. The battery doesn't regenerate, and if it does, it regenerates slowly. Completely depleting the shield's health or battery uses up that charge, and there is a cooldown before you can use it again. The shield is only strong enough to absorb one high damage attack like an energy sword, sniper shot, or grenade. You can use it to move around while under fire, but only enough to close a short distance or get to cover. If I implemented the shield, I wouldn't have bleed through for energy sword attacks, regular gunfire, gravity hammer, and grenades. If there is bleed through, the damage you take should be reduced so that you don't instantly die from it. I'm conflicted as to whether it should be able to take a rocket to the face or deflect it or just kill you. I don't know. The last idea I had was a new weapon. It's not been usable in a game before, but you have seen it. It's the machete. It appears on the difficulty logos, and it was also cut from Combat Evolved and restored by Digsite, I think. The UNSC don't have their own melee weapon, but it's about time that we give them one. Obviously it can't be as strong as an energy sword. My idea was to give it a fast swing speed, but it's a 2-hit kill. The Oddball does this, but you don't have lunge distance with it. If the machete had a little bit more lunge distance, it would be a bit more viable as a weapon. There's not much to this, but I think it would be an interesting addition, but not the most groundbreaking. Again, I think this would be good for the campaign in terms of vibes. Imagine being in a muggy swamp and you quickly cut down a horde of grunts. That would be sorta cool. Assuming there's also parrying, should it be able to block an energy sword? Canonically, no. That would make no sense. It would be fun though, therefore I would put it in anyway, screw you. That's the end of the video. If you enjoyed it, that's cool I guess. Be sure to leave death threats in the comments below. Have a day.